Okay, how we doing? Come on out. Grinding away in there. What's in there? Lab? Breakout room?
Serious, right?
Yeah, that's where we actually write.
Some
Here, have fun.
The grinders go back in there. I came down here last night like 10 o'clock. There was 2 people in here. I'm like, jeez. Yeah, grinding. Some people get after it.
Is that normal for you? Stay here that late?
Oh, yeah.
What just start off with their special teams. How are the Steelers?
Yeah, these guys are good, man. They do a nice job. Their coach's been there forever. Long-time coach in the league. Obviously, a lot of experience. Been here at one point, long time ago. But he does a great job. They put a big emphasis on it. Head coach involved with it. You can tell their kickoff return, they put their 2 top running backs out there, 14 and 30. So their 2 kind of starters are back there deep, returning for them. It's obviously a good formula. I would say overall, this team's very, very big, physical. It's kind of the brand of football they play. They played the same style of defense for a long time. A lot of that's 2-gap, which means hands-on blocks, leveraging blockers or block destruction, however you want to say it or see it. So they do a great job with that. You can tell that they, as a team, they, execute or teach or work on that all the time. Their kick coverage is one of the tops in the league. They're, like I said, the kick return, they got 2 good returners back there. The punt returners got some speed, quickness, number 19. And then, on punt, they do a nice job too. They got some good gunners that play hard on the outside. So it'll definitely be a big challenge for us here.
With the punt return, you had 2 guys back there. Just what kind of went wrong on that?
Our punt return in the last game. We had 2 returns back there. I mean, ultimately, really, what was it? It was, we had Leaf do a good job for us, who we love, and TK come in the game before and do a great job for us. So, Coach asked, what do we want to do? Punt return. I said, well, we want Leaf back there, but we could put them both back there. So that was really that. So we had 2 out there. If they punt the ball to the right, you field it with him. If they punt the ball to the left, you field it with him. I think Leaf, they had a hard time communicating because the noise is what I was told. But the ball was also clearly on the left side of the field. Leaf should have just let TK catch it, but he wanted it too, I guess.
You hinted at that last week. I guess what is the advantage that you're trying to get? I'm assuming you have less protection, obviously, on the punt return. But I guess how can you use that to your advantage?
Probably in a number of different ways. Number one, if they're playing a team who, like this team, the Steelers, they punt the ball right sometimes, and the punter's kind of offset it to look like he's punting the ball to the right, and he punts the ball to the right sometimes. And then kind of out of that same alignment, they punt the ball to the left sometimes, and so now you're stretching the returner a little bit, having to cover the field right and left. So that would be one reason. You got 2 guys back there. He can play the ball on the right, and he can play the ball on the left, and that guy doesn't have to chase it around. He's not running sideways, catching it, and catch it gets started downhill. That would be one. Obviously, there's a million other things you could do. You could, run a throwback. You could hand it off. You could fake a reverse. You could run a reverse. You could, whatever. You could have one guy block, and the other guy catch it. So a lot of different stuff.
If you've talked about
but it does thin you out up inside, at the line of scrimmage. You got less guys there and all that.
Sorry about that. You've talked about this with Jake Elliott in the past. There's such a small sample size of kicks. You miss one, it really shifts your percentage greatly. Jake's percentage probably isn't where anybody wants it to be right now. How do you evaluate the full body of work? And
for me it's pretty easy. Number one, just look at the big picture. I mean, do you have a good player or not? To me, clearly we have a very, very good player. If you put him on the streets, there'd be a bunch of teams claiming him right away. And the truth is we'd have a really hard time finding a guy even near the same player as him. So that would be one. The next thing, I think I've kind of said all along, is you're going to have some ups and downs. All these guys do. do year to year. Even older players have ups and downs, and a lot of that is the sample size is small. Anytime you have a handful of kicks blocked, it's obviously you don't even have a chance to make the thing. So your numbers are going to go down. I really am not worried about him at all. I think he's a great player. He's going to be an incredible player in this league. He's a tremendous talent. Like I said, we'd be dying to find a guy like him if we didn't have him. And that doesn't mean he's not going to have some ups and downs. He's going to have that throughout the course of his year or career. I think, is he growing? Is he getting better? I think in hindsight for him, he'll probably look back at this year and it'll be one of the best years he's ever had just in terms of growth, and it'll be, he's probably learned a lot throughout the course of the year, what he has to do, anything he might have to do different. A lot of times when you're having just a lot of success and you really aren't getting a lot better, you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over and it's working out, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're playing at that level either. So I think obviously we want to make every kick that we can, or every kick we go out there for. But I do think I have a lot of confidence in him. I totally believe in him. I know he's a great player. I will not waver, not one bit. Anyway, he's got to continue to grow and develop. We got to do a better job. Like I said a week ago, I got to do a better job with the protection too. That'll help him out.
It's probably a statistical anomaly, but his misses have come like in back-to-back games, like too early on, last 2 weeks. I think it was middle of the season, the other two. What is the process when he has a miss to fix that, whatever it is?
Yeah, I think, routine is a good thing for a kicker, having a routine and going out there and just executing the same routine. And then, sometimes that gets knocked off a little bit by some negative plays and that's on your mind. And now you don't focus or go through your routine the same way, which is why it helps to have one so that you kind of just reset and do the same thing over and over. You can kind of worry about that last play for just a short period of time, then you got to let it go and flush it and move on. But yeah, I don't worry at all. I mean, he missed a kick in the opener there. Obviously, we want to make it. It was a very makeable distance. He came back and had a great kick later in the game. I think it was 48 yards, so a tougher one, and did a great job. I mean, really at that position, that's probably more important how you respond to that stuff.
You've seen him go through a lot of things here. When he first got here, had some difficult times. You guys stuck with him. Is a lot of your faith based on how he handles anything that comes to him?
Yeah, I would say a lot of my faith is based on the fact that I've seen him kick a million kicks, and we've charted a lot of them. So we have hundreds of kicks charted now on him, and he's hitting field goals at a higher percentage than any kicker that I've ever had overall. So really, it starts and kind of stops right there for me. This guy's, he's a really good player, and I was not necessarily going to show up all the time, and it's got to show up in games. But same thing I said with Jake Elliott back in the day is what these guys do in practice will slowly translate into the game. It might not be exactly the same, but it'll be closer to that than it will be something else.
You said he's making in practice a higher percentage than anybody you've ever had.
Yeah, not even close. Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but there's different ways to look at that. What is it underneath 50 yards? What is it over 50? What's it from 51 to 53? Like I said, I'm not skirting the subject. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's up there. Yeah. I think his kicks right now are high 90% overall for us in practice and games.
Yeah, not saying this about him, but since you said it usually does translate, is there something, the pressure of the game, how do you factor that in?
Yeah, game's a little bit different, but I would say not much. Usually what they do in practice ends up showing up in the game. Yeah. Big picture-wise, no question. Yeah. No, small sample size, obviously, it's up and down a little bit, but yeah.
I think I asked you maybe a month ago just about all the moving pieces you had with your coverage units, which is some of the injuries. That group's been largely together now. It seems like do you feel like the return game is turning, or the coverage game is turning a corner?
Yeah, I feel like we've covered pretty well. Now we got our hands full this weekend going into this game, but yeah, I think statistically, overall in the season, the numbers are still good. I don't know. I don't know what it is exactly. We're top 10 on kickoff. We're top 10 on kickoff return. We're top 10, I think, on punt, net, and especially if you break it down by field zones. And net and drive start, kind of looking at both those things. And then I think our lowest number is actually punt return. yeah, I feel good about it. I think the guys have been playing well in the last handful of weeks. I think the last 8 weeks, maybe, we haven't had a penalty. Early on, we had a bunch of penalties. Some of them were like, 5 yards for kicking the ball out of bounds. We got kicked 2 kickoffs out of bounds, and that actually was a good play, but they're penalties. So the numbers are high, but the yardage isn't very high. I think we're top 5 in penalty yards or something like that. So, yeah.
Jack finally had a touchback last week.
Yeah, he had the touchback. I know, man. 20 yards right there, just giving it to him. But at least it was a 62-yard punt and a 42-yard net, so that helped. But, yeah, we would have loved to pin him down there. I mean, field position is so big in this game. It's really like the Rams. I mean, they gave us the ball on the 35 on the kickoff by kicking all those touchbacks. And, I mean, your offense doesn't have to go very far. So field position is significant, and offenses are getting used to starting out there. So anytime you can really pin them back deep, I think it's really beneficial. And this game, field position probably be huge. With the Steelers, they kind of tend to play a brand of football that's a little bit more field possession oriented and all that. So
we'll get started just like every week, recapping last game with last week. Obviously, the biggest thing for me, the elephant in the room, let's go ahead and get it out there. Whenever your offense scores over 30 points, you have to win those football games. In my opinion, as a defensive coach, I'm going to just be brutally honest with you. That bothers me. Dan knows that, and I know he's going to try to deflect and say, no, we got to score more and all that. Like, we have to limit more. If your offense scores 30 points, especially with where we're at this point in the year, you have to win those football games. So the first thing I do is sit back and assess the past month, essentially. We hit a rut where we were playing damn good football as a defense, as a collective unit. It wasn't pretty. It was things here and there, but collectively we were finding ways, situationally, third down, takeaways, sudden change, to make those plays. And for some reason, the last month, dating back to the Giants game, that hasn't been the case. And everything really started to point to our pass game and pass defense. And that obviously showed up in LA in a bad way against the Rams. And it's all the explosives, man. And I know I continue to say that. You beat it home. So the first thing I did with the unit, I went in and I took myself and held accountability to myself. Can't be hard-headed and say, we have a system, this is what we're going to do. You can either do it or you're not playing. No. That's BS in my opinion. That's not coaching. Coaching is identifying what your players do well, and regardless of what your system is, players over scheme. So we addressed that first and foremost. And then we got to the accountability piece for the players. A lot of these plays, they're guys at the point of attack, guys we feel like are in position sometimes to make these plays, 50-50 opportunities, going to the fourth down. All 3 of those fourth downs at the game, we had guys there at the point of attack, bang, bang plays. And their guys are finding ways to make more plays than we are. And that's a cumulative, not one player, that's as a unit. So there will be some changes, whether that's schematically, whether that's personnel-based. And these guys are all in on it. That's the thing. There's some guys that need to play better. They said that, not me. And then just me as the coordinator, seeing the big picture of where we're at right now. And what is it going to take week to week to win games? Forget the stats. Forget number one defense. I want to knock out this. What is it going to dictate that week to win the football game? And what do we need to do as a defense to make sure that happens? So I'm in the solution-based business, not finger pointing. And that's where we're at. That's the message this week. What are the answers? Because it's easy to say you need to play better. Well, how is he going to play better, Coach Shepp? What tools are you giving him as a coach to play better? And that's where all my focus is driven right now. Last 72 hours have been everything going, what are the answers for these players? Not you need to play better, how is he going to play better? And we've done that, and the players attacked this week that way.
Speaking to a lot of players, it seems like they got a lot of confidence that they can finish this stretch out strong. And they dated back to what they went through in 21 and 22. From you being around, why do you feel like these guys, have that confidence and seeing them go through that they can finish this final stretch out strong?
Because we've seen it all here collectively as an organization, as a defensive unit, as a team. We've been the lowest of low, where everybody wanted all the players out, all the coaches out, and we've seen the highest of high, where you're expected to win every football game and play at a high level. and then everything in between that. So we know there's ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys within the course of a year. You just have to absolutely make sure you're peaking during this time of the year. This can't be where you're in the valleys and you're hitting the lows of lows. And we've done that the past couple weeks. So the thing that I truly appreciate, and I tell these guys, I'll go down with them, I appreciate the accountability that they've taken as players. And I haven't had to point a finger because it's these guys saying, Coach, man, that's on me. I need to play better. Well, how can I help you? Like, that is coaching. It's not saying, oh, this player, you need to do it. How? You have to give these players answers, and then that builds confidence, and then that in turn allows these guys to go out and play at a high level, which I have full confidence that these players will do.
Back to what you were saying off the top, and I'm sure you won't give away schematic, exactly what you're planning to do, but it sounds like there could be changes. What is the fine line to walk there? Because I'm sure the guys you bring in are guys that fit your system in some way, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, it doesn't seem like there could be an overhaul. It's just little tweaks to fit the guys a little bit better.
Absolutely, Dave. It's definitely not an overhaul. I mean, it's not enough time within a game week to overhaul a system and start to teach new things. That's what phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, all that stuff in the offseason, training camp, that 4 or 5 week period is for. So we have principles and core things that we've done in the past, some things we're going to kind of intersplice, kind of some technique changes, some things like that. But it's not just going to be a wholesale change and we're going to show up Sunday and look like a completely different outfit. That's not the case. We're still going to be a tough, mean, nasty group, biting the football, finishing on the ball. It's just some things schematically where I feel like it's time to help these guys a little more than what I've done thus far as a coordinator.
Just again, getting the ball out. Rodgers getting the ball out again super fast.
Yeah.
Second straight week you're seeing that. We talked to Hutch yesterday. He's just like, all right, when he gets it out fast, just don't get frustrated and keep doing your thing. But, what is the message to the defense when someone is getting it out?
Rodgers isn't letting his body hit the ground. That just is what it is. And I don't blame him. I mean, what is he, year 17, 18, something? He's not hitting the ground. So just focus on how can I affect the game knowing that. And these guys are very aware of that. Aaron Rodgers definitely is familiar with our personnel and people, and he knows the guys that can affect him in that way. And I would imagine he has a plan. So it's not getting caught up in we need to hear collectively again as a unit. Going into this game, understanding the task at hand, how do we collectively get this mission accomplished? And these guys are doing that thus far in the 2 days that we've been prepping.
Dan talked about helping those guys on the outside, maybe a little bit more. I don't know if that's safety help. Is the fine line there, Shep, that's putting a little bit more onus on the front seven to handle things in the run game and letting your safeties maybe help those guys on the edge, not to give away schematics like Dave said, but just how do you go about helping those guys and not put them in as many one-on-one situations on the outside as maybe you guys have?
Yep, and then it's a fine line because the way those guys are wired, the guys we have out there, they want that. That's the thing about it. But again, you can't be hard-headed. When the thing's not turning your way out there and you can't be hard-headed, and you have to understand coach is asking this type of technique change because of this on tape. And you're able to show the player. That's the thing. Deshae, J.O., they do a phenomenal job in the development of these guys. They never complain about who's playing. Just tell me who I'm coaching this week and we're going to get them ready to play. That's why I enjoy this thing that we're in. We're all in this together. There's never you got to do this, no, we have to do this collectively. And that's the task at hand. And obviously, Tim, I'm not going to sit here and tell Aaron Rodgers the defense I'm playing against him on Sunday, but there will be some changes, Tim.
Hey, Shep, on the note of players saying they need to be better, Aleem said yesterday he feels like he's played below his own standards so far. He said he feels like sometimes he's trying to process or see things too much before the snap during the play instead of just getting on blocks and winning those matchups. How have you seen that maybe hold him back from making the kind of impact he wants to make on a game-in, game-out basis?
Again, that's why I appreciate the unit that I very fortunate and blessed to coach, because you don't have to go in the room and state the obvious. These guys stated. I had guys at halftime telling me, I'm sorry, I got to be better. And I said, F that. No, you don't. I have to be better for you all. And these guys know that. They feel that. But Aleem is a guy that we feel like. Now, Aleem has not been playing bad. But the caliber of player that Aleem is and the standard he's set for himself is to impact football games. And he feels like he told me, Coach, I haven't been doing that. I haven't been giving you what I should. And I told him, listen, just make sure you're staying within the framework of the scheme, because what you can start to do when you start to hear all this outside noise, you start to kind of feel pressure on yourself. I got to make a play. And now you're going so far off the reservation, you're doing more harm than good. Just kind of find that fine balance. Understand you do need to play better. And you do need to impact the game better. Now, how are we going to do that? Afforded with one of the best D-line coaches in the league, I can promise you he's giving them the answers to that test. So listen, I have all the faith in the world in Aleem. He's done good things for us, but it is time for him to kind of kick in as far as being that impactful 3 technique that we all know he can be.
I feel like we saw the explosive plays off the top there. What is the driving force, do you think, behind that surge over the last 4 games and the explosive pass plays?
As far as the explosive plays, a lot of technique, you see a lot of is generated off double moves, leverage, eye discipline, things like that. And then once again, schematically, what can I do to eliminate that? A lot of times, if you get double moved and there's nobody over the top, it's a touchdown. You know what I mean? So just understanding and telling these hard-headed guys that want to play man that, guys, it's a time and place for it. But the tape says, like, that's what I go off facts, which is tape in our business. The tape says it's time to kind of alter a little bit. And that just doesn't mean we're going to turn into safety's over-the-top outfit. There's going to be certain techniques that change within the single high stuff that can help these guys, and we think we all going to benefit from it.
Has been on the
linebacker yourself. You've got a lot of trust in a high IQ group there to work with,
Yep.
but you've also given them a lot of freedom with some of the options and checks they're able to assess on the field. How does that make your job easier, giving Alex and Derek and Jack just a little more of that discretion?
Yeah, that's actually funny you said that, because we're going to get a little bit deeper into some of that as we progress here starting this week, because what I've identified is that's what offenses are doing to us lately. They're just breaking the huddle, I believe, with a run-pass option, depending on the shell of our defense. I just went back and just watching it. Why is this happening? Where are they identifying? What are they seeing from us when I'm single high versus when I'm too high? And then what are the type plays we've seen? And then a lot of it starts to get kind of clumped in to those explosive plays that we just mentioned here. So just overall, giving those guys flexibility, ultimate trust and confidence. I think those guys throughout this storm that we've kind of been in, especially Jack Campbell, has been a mainstay and continues to steady play at a high level. There's been a lot of guys on the front 7. So we're going to put the hard hat on those guys like Tim kind of mentioned and tinkered into. And they know there's certain ways we got to play now, and the hard hat goes on. Some of our top and best performers right now within this course where we are.
Focus on the pass defense here. Your run defense has been really good this season. Took a pretty big step back in this last game in particular.
Yep.
Was it something the Rams were doing to you schematically? What was the downfall there for you, Chip?
So when we say step back, is that total yardage we're saying?
I think maybe just the efficiency of the operation.
Because I believe when you looked at it, they rushed the ball 29 times, 155 yards, if I'm not mistaken. You look there, they popped one, I believe it was 19 yards where we pressured and had a misfit on the interior of it when they cut back, the center folded, which created a misfit extra gap, and they hit us for 19 there. And then towards the end of the game, around a 4-minute situation, the ball hit on the edge where Rock has pinned the hip 100 times but took a bad angle. That generated 24 yards. And then down in the red zone where my man Corum scored, I believe that was probably 11 and 12 yards there. So again, you can't play this game of taking plays away, but nobody, and I can stand on the table behind this, nobody has just lined up and ran the ball down our throats or made us like the run game. They pop the explosive run here and there, that'll generate that big number, but that 24 and 19 yarder, take that out alone, they're standing at 4.0 a carry, which is around this league in the NFL, that'll sit you right around the top 10 and right where you want to be. So it's just as far as understanding how we have to play now, as far as the fit's going to change a little bit. If you're not down safety gapped out 7-8 man spacing, you have to be able to occupy that extra gap with the defender being able to hand hands, D-line and linebackers, and get off blocks and finish on the football. But I'm not going to sit here and act like and kind of let anybody state that anybody's just lined up and made us like their run game, because that's never happened.
Yeah, I guess I was just talking from efficiency standpoint, I think a lot of teams offensively and defensively use, 4 yards on first down, half distance on second down to describe efficiency. It's the worst efficiency game in the Dan Campbell era. So I think that's where I kind of was coming from that perspective.
Yeah, no, I thought outside of 3-4 plays in the game, I like where we stood as far as fitting the run.
Thing on Rodgers, you played against him as a player a couple times. I think he hit a game winner for you against you. If I looked it up right when you were in Miami, is he?
You found that one.
Well, so does he still resemble the same player that we're used to seeing in the NFC North from all those years? And how has he changed? If not,
Probably the biggest difference is he used to get out on the perimeter with his legs, and he wouldn't mind taking a hit or two here and there. Somebody mentioned it earlier. He's not taking those hits anymore. A little bit more stagnant as far as stationary in the pocket. Now, does still now. I don't want to think I'm saying he can't get out or I can't run or anything like that, and he come out and turn into Michael Vick Sunday. But listen, this player has high IQ. Again, we're dealing with another Hall of Fame quarterback. I've probably said that about 4 or 5 times this year, neither here nor there, but a guy that understands the system. More importantly, he understands our stuff and what we do, our personnel, who does what well. He's going to assess the formation. He's always going to try to make sure he's in the perfect play, and just making sure as the coordinator, I put our guys in the possible best position to go out and play at a high level, fast, physical, and execution.
you remember that game winner that he hit?
I think it was on Phillip Wheeler, actually. I think he threw. I think it was a completion on Phillip. No, I'm telling you, I think, if I know off the top of my head, I think he hit Field in the end zone towards the end of the game on like a back pylon or something like that throw.
All right, guys. Man, looking forward to this game. Pittsburgh, man. Pittsburgh used to be my childhood team. I had Pittsburgh everything, but looking forward to this. It's always a tough game. Mike Tomlin and Austin, those guys do a great job on defense. Always have historically. Do a good job up front, playing really good up front. Secondary, do a good job in coverages, got good blitz packages. Be a good challenge for us. We're ready. So looking forward to it.
Tell us more about Pittsburgh used to be your team. That was who you rooted for growing up?
Yeah, I had Pittsburgh everything. You know, Terry Bradshaw, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, Jack Ham. I mean, how can you not? You know, but yeah, they were fun to watch. Hated Dallas, loved Pittsburgh.
What the they're an organization that just wins, and Tomlin's record is pretty well spoken for. But what do you just make of the success that they've had as a franchise?
Well, continuity, right? They've had 3 head coaches. That's a plus. Tomlin's he's a heck of a coach. They've been drafted really well, just like we have here. They've established what they want to do, and it's just been like that. No matter what coach comes in, assistant coaches, you just adapt. It's pretty much been the same defense forever. So they draft certain guys to fit that scheme, and then they really play well because they know what they're doing year after year.
But
Go ahead, Nolan.
The protection seems like it's kind of improving over these last couple of weeks. It seems like Jared maybe trusts his protection a little bit more. You guys were taking some downfield shots last game. Have you seen that kind of evolve over the last back half of the season, just in terms of the pass protection and maybe Jared's trust in it?
Yeah, I think so. It starts with the quarterback, the O-line, and the film study and everything. I think he's done a heck of a job. Communication's a heck of a lot better than it was in the beginning of the year. And it's just a matter, it comes down to making sure we're doing the right techniques, being disciplined with our the way we set, the way we pick up, the way we ID, and we've done a good job, and we're getting the ball out. We have to do that, and Jared's really good finding nowhere to go with the ball right away. We're doing a good job schema-wise, based on what their defense does. But it'll be a challenge this week. They got different types of looks. There's a lot of keys that we have to look at to know what they're doing. So that'll be fun.
You build this thing around the ground game.
Yeah.
Maybe the last 5 weeks. Obviously, Gibbs had the big one with the 3 monster runs against the Giants, but maybe not as consistent as you'd like to be. What do you need to get this thing on track to the level you want it to be?
Yeah. Well, we need to come off the ball for one, and knowing exactly the communication, okay, which has been better. And it's just been like we've had some negative plays where, we had some holding calls, technique. It's just technique. it's a lot of technique stuff. The scheme is there. It's good. We just got to make sure we use the right technique coming off the ball so we don't get beat. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. And then, sometimes you got to narrow down things. So you make sure you get all the right looks, the certain looks. Sometimes that's good to be simple. But the bottom line is just coming off the ball and using the right technique and being disciplined. That's the biggest thing. We got the backs, and we're going to get it going. So looking forward to this challenge because, historically it's been tough to run the ball on Pittsburgh, but we feel good this week going into it.
I think we recognize it's never perfect, right? Like that's part of the game is everybody's working on their technique, you're working on yours.
Yeah.
Is the consistency surprising to you this late in the season? That's not where maybe you wanted it to be?
Yeah, it was just really one game last week. But listen, we're going to do whatever it takes to win the game. That's the bottom line. And if we have to throw it, we throw it. If the run game's going, we'll run the game. We'll run the ball. It makes it a lot easier on everybody else. So that's where we're at with this right now. It's not an issue. It's just about, okay, let's make sure we want to try to establish it and get it going early. And then now we build the confidence, you know what I mean? And then there's certain plays that, Gibby has or Demo has, we can get that going. Now, once we get behind the 8 ball and we have negative plays, now that's tough. That's tough to overcome because when you try to run it on second and long, it's tough looks. Just try to get in third and short and medium. That's always what you want to try to do. So, we've addressed it, and we feel really good about it this week. So,
John, have you noticed a difference in the way defenses counter you guys with David in the backfield versus Jameer, like the way they stack the box or don't?
No, not really. Don't see that. Based on what they do, some defenses do that. Like this defense, they're just going to play what they play. It doesn't matter who's in the game. Now, if they're in a certain passing situation, like third down or something like that, that could be different. But first and second down, don't see that.
Last week, Jameson and Amon-Ra accounted for about 88% of the receiving yards. Do you see that continuing going forward? Because, again, they got the lion's share outside of Gibbs, of course, in the previous game against the Cowboys. But as far as receiving targets, do you see that going forward where they're pretty much have, by far the vast majority of...
Well, we got, our tight ends out, right? Gibby's in there. He's been in there, right? He's been in there. So, other guys are going to have to step up. If they start doubling, we have some other guys that can step up and play. You got Leaf, and Tesla's been coming along, Gibbs. There's a lot of things that the defense has to look at, but keep doing it until they stop it.
Is it also a trust level with Jared at this point? Where
those two guys?
Yeah, especially those two
heck
guys.
Yeah. J-Mo's blossomed in the last, 6-7 weeks? Yeah. He's getting more targets. And we're finding ways to get him open. And Jared sees it, just like last week. The play calls that we had, we got the right look, and it was perfect. So when you do that, it's very easy. But this will be different this week. They got a lot of different looks, especially on third down. So we have to be creative in how we get guys open.
It's sort of a debate among fans every once in a while, but Jameson and Jameer celebrated that touchdown by lining up and faking a race. Who do you think would win in that one?
Come on, man. Back in the day, I'd be in that race. I'm not answering that.
Would you bust out the high tops in that race?
Probably. With a mullet. I don't have hair anymore, though. Probably have to wear a wig. That was pretty. I saw that tail end of that. It's kind of cool.
You noticed, or you mentioned there that JMO's really turned it on the last several weeks.
Yeah.
I think we saw it in camp, right? He was turning a corner, and maybe it didn't translate right away. What is this stretch? Was there a turning point? Something that clicked for him? are schematically even?
Well, when we lost Laporta, things changed a little bit. And then just, when we're watching film, there was certain things he was doing OTAs and training camp that, weren't going our way in the beginning of the season. Now we're kind of getting those looks. And, I'm giving them a little bit more, every week. That way we can change it up. That way, so they're not just saying, oh, he's just doing this and that. That's the same thing with Saint. We put Saint outside last week. When have you seen that? And he ran a post. And then J-Mo ran the post. It was the same play, different personnel grouping. So we have to be creative in that way based on who we're going against. We're always trying to find the weakest link in the defense. And that's what you attack. Whether it's up front, whether it's the linebackers, the secondary, we need to go after this cat. And if they're playing man-to-man, we need to do that. If they're playing a certain coverage, like last week, it was a cover 4 look. Okay, we knew that corner was going to play outside. They personnel grouping, they're going to play this right here, and they did. So I think that's the biggest thing. That's why he's getting more opportunities. Laporta's out. And listen, even when Laporta was gone in the beginning there, we're always trying to get him open. And now, they're clouding him too. They didn't do that last week, which was a shocker. But this defense, they'll do things like that. So they try to take away your strengths. They're a defense, just like us. They're going to try to take away our strengths. But when you got, Gibbs and J-Mo, Tesla, and all these guys, St. Brown on the field, now, Leaf, that's a lot you got to deal with, which is a good thing. Maybe you get automatic front coverage, or they just don't care. This front, especially third down up front, they try to get after it. They do play a lot of man-to-man. So, we got to protect up front. That's the biggest thing, so we can get the ball out.
They also take the ball away at a very high rate. You guys protect the ball very well. When you're going into a game like that, how do you go about kind of imposing your will while also being cognizant of what they can do in that specific area to kind of break open the game?
Yeah, I think they're number 3 or 4. We're number 1, protecting the ball. So I like our chances right there. We do a great job. You guys have seen the drills. We do a turnover circuit every day. And it carries over to the game. We put a big emphasis on that. We do our drills, and then Coach Choice has a film on Saturday, the last game, showing everybody this was great protection, this is what you're supposed to do. So we're very aware of that, and we make it a big-time priority, which you should, because really, all the best defenses in the league every year, they're the best in turnovers, creating turnovers. So they're the guys, they're the teams that are in the playoffs all the time. So we just have to continue that. We always talk about it. And when you talk about things and you do things a lot, you get the results, right? So it's going to be a great matchup.
You mentioned the man-to-man. They also play a lot of the same cover 3, cover 4. I'm curious, every defensive coordinator has a little bit different rules with their zone coverages and how they, match or landmarks or whatever. Yeah. How difficult is that process each week of kind of deciphering how the teams play their cover 3, whether it's between you, Jared, quarterback's coach, all that stuff?
Yeah, so, this defense is more a 3D drop zone defense, where last week it wasn't. It was a little bit different. So you have these plays accordingly, right? So I got my little master list. Okay, here's the coverages. Here's cover 3. Well, what type of cover 3? Okay, here's the plays that we run. You know what I'm saying? Or it's like, we're great at these concepts. We do these over and over and over. And and you can formation it differently. So it all looks the same, but there's 3 or 4 different plays out of the same formation. That's what you want to do. So just like you have your catalog of things you do. Here's cover 4 beaters, here's cover 2 beaters, here's man-to-man beaters. And you run those plays. Or here's all-purpose. Man, they got a lot of different looks, so you run these all-purpose plays. You know what I mean? So that's how you put the game plan together. It's the same thing in the run game. Here's the front. Okay, who are we going against? That's the other thing that factors in, in coverage or in linebackers or the front. That matchup's not really good. Well, how do we get a good matchup? That's what you got to try to figure out. do that. You do it in your film, so you watch film. I did not see that. I see that before.